I'm Dan Panoshin, and you're listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
Oh boy, was that powerful.
That was like a javelin through the heart.
Was it though?
Yes.
Are you okay, my man?
What do you mean?
You just got a javelin through your heart.
I'm fine. It was aimed at you.
Oh, is that how it works?
Yeah.
Okay. So it goes after the handsome one first, not the tallest.
I love it.
New leaf, new year. Oh my goodness. Hey everybody. It's 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 892. And I'm Vince B.
Damn. You are Vince B. 8 away. 900. I am David A. Price.
It's true, and I hate you all because I'm not you. I'm Phi Long.
You're not Phi Long. No way. You're Jason Wood, everybody. Back to business. Our past two episodes have been our annual 11 O'Clockers, where we've rounded up all our favorite stuff from the previous year. Now we forge ahead. We're going to experience and talk about new stuff that you may hear in a year's time on the next 11 O'Clockers, right?
Depends when it came out. Did it come out this year or did it come out last year?
We do follow rules, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're also going to enjoy filling your ear holes with the comic stuff. That's why we're here. But before we do, we want to tell you where we get this stuff. CheapGraphicNovels.com. One more time. CheapGraphicNovels.com. Hosanna, the Romnibus, Volume 1, has shipped.
Oh.
It will be at my house shortly. And why did I get it? Why did I get it from CheapGraphicNovels.com? Because, one, it was the lowest price around. Two, they have earned my trust. I know that I'm going to get it when I order it. I mean, if I pre-order it, I know I'm going to get it. Plus, the packaging, the packing materials is ridiculous. A nuclear bomb can go off and that book would come into my house unscathed. Omnibus edition, trade paperback, manga, OGNs, Cheap Graphic Novels has it all and all at the prices you want to pay. So just go there. CheapGraphicNovels.com. Remember, email, receive it, reply to the email. 11 O'Clock Comics sent us. You will get free shipping on your second order.
Oh, yeah.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Is that your cat with the bell? Is that what I'm hearing?
It is. You know what? I'm such a freaking hypocrite. Way back in the day, I was like, Dad, can you not get the cat out of the room? Like, is it that? Does it take that much to get the cat out of the room? Actually, it does take that much to get the cat out of the room. She just likes to. Oh, she's gone. She just likes to be around.
Who doesn't want to be around you?
I know, right? I have beverages. 3 16-ounce beverages. 16.8% alcohol by volume.
What?
Yeah. No, 6.8. Did I say 16?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
Yes, you did.
16 would be butter. This is brewed by the Half Acre Beer Company from Chicago, Illinois. It is called Tend. It's a Winter India Pale Ale. It's delicious, and I have 3 of them. 3 16-ounce cans.
Oh, Lord.
Yep.
Nice. Well, I have just one of this beautiful beverage from Bowl and Basket Specialty. It is Mandarin Orange Sparkling Water.
Did you say bowl and basket?
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, it's a new brand to me. New to me. But, yes.
I got some alliteration going on because I am enjoying some Bardstown bourbon.
Oof.
A lot of peas.
Kill a bees in the house.
Baby.
I love
On
the
the
bees.
swarm.
Yeah.
I'll give you honey.
Yes.
All right. Relaxed. Right? Laid back. We're just going to talk about comics. We don't have to cover a certain amount of things in a certain amount of time. We're just going to kick back and talk about the book. And what are we going to talk about?
Well, I told you guys off air this week how busy I was and I hadn't had a chance to read much. But that was a little bit of a white lie because I wanted to throw it. I wanted to spring it on you both right here because it could be a gobsmacking moment.
Could
hold
be.
On, I gotta get my hold on.
Oh my
Gotta
God.
get this here computer. I'll relax, Jesus. My goodness. Okay, so I woke up the other day and I thought, well, I haven't read any of these books in a minute, and they're piling up here, so maybe I'll just check in with it and see what's what. And what I was talking about is all of the Marvel Mutant books. As you know, I have been avoiding them since the Hellfire Gala special. And Vince has probably talked about 18 of them since then.
More than usual, yeah. I mean, I covered an inordinate amount of X books last year.
Yes.
For me, anyway.
Yeah. So I pulled up on the interwebs the reading list, the Fall of X reading list. And my goodness, are they putting Fall of X on a lot of books. It is there will be, by my count, at least 100 issues that have the Fall of X tie-in brand by the time this is all over. But it's even on Iron Man. Well, I was just going to say, so I thought, okay. Let me just look at this list, and you know what? I'm going to read the books chronologically. And to your point, the Invincible Iron Man is a big part of all this. And I actually ended up reading.
Makes sense.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up reading. Let's see, 27 books related to the Fall of the X this past week, including the Invincible Iron Man 8-9, X-Force 43, X-Men 25, Uncanny Avengers #1, Children of the Vault #1, which I had read because we talked about at the time, Immortal X-Men #14, Dark X-Men #1, Marvel Voices X-Men #1, Astonishing Iceman #1, Alpha Flight #1, Realm of X #1, X-Men Red 14 and 15, Jean Grey #1, Ghost Rider Wolverine Weapons of Vengeance Alpha, Vince, Ghost Rider 17, Wolverine 36, Ghost Rider Wolverine Weapons of Vengeance Omega, Vince, Deadpool 10, Miss Marvel the New Mutant #1, X-Men 26, and Immortal X-Men #15. Oh, and Invincible Iron Man #10. It's a lot of books, and I'm not even like halfway there. I got like another more. Oh God, I got more than I got. I'm like a quarter of the way through.
It's a lot of heavy lifting. Yeah,
a lot of heavy lifting, and you know, at the end of the day, it's kind of what you would expect. Some of these things are totally forgettable. Some are really good, and so it was. I got to say, it was nice because it's been probably 5-6 months, which is one of the longest periods. If you take away the college years, it's one of the longest periods I've ever gone without reading X books. So, I mean, I'm back. I don't, we'll see how happily back I am. But I must say that time heals all wounds, and as much as I stick to my absolute distaste for the convention of Hellfire Gala special and where we are now, I have to say, now that we're here, some of these books are pretty good. They're doing some good things. But here's the kicker, Vince.
Okay.
It's because I love you. Of all of those books that I've read so far, I think the most entertaining was the 4-issue Ghost Rider Wolverine crossover.
My man.
Yep.
And it's not even directly related. I mean, it's in the ballpark.
No, it's not.
But see,
the only premise is that Wolverine is still on Earth because Badass who didn't leave. Yeah, that's really the only connection. Yeah,
that's your first test. We'll see how you perform on your second.
Wait,
it'll come. I'll tell you when it gets here. But just continue.
Well, I will say that. So Ben Percy and Jeff Shaw. I mean, you've talked about these books already, so I'm not going to rehash them. But I will say, it was really nice to have all those books by one creative voices. One set. Jeff Shaw's art, which you all know I'm a big fan of. He was my artist of the year 2 years ago for crossover. So that was great to see him doing those books. And as much as I bust on Johnny Blaze in this kind of setting, it definitely, like, Shaw's a perfect artist for that. And given the story, it was just on the verge of being too silly, but because of the aesthetic of the art and because of the mood, it didn't go over the board. Like, I mean, Helverine is, it's like right on the verge of being absurd, but I feel like, okay, this works. I'm going with it. I'm just going to go with it. It's a freaking hell. It's a demon possessed Wolverine. I'm with it. Okay, fine. Like, let's go with it. And especially because it looks so damn good. So yeah, I enjoyed that for what it was. You get in, you get out. Nice little mini series. Bada bing, bada boom. So I'm with that. The Iron Man book was rough. It's rough, dude, and it's Jerry Duggan and Juan Vergara. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with the creative team. I mean, Duggan's doing a lot of these X books, and I think Vergara's art looks nice, but I just don't care about Tony Stark. I just do not care. And to be fair to these books, these issues, I can't speak for ones that came before, but these issues are pretty much. I mean, this is not one of those tie-in books that's tangential. I mean, the Wolverine was tangential. This is epicenter. I mean, they are, Tony is deeply involved. He's Emma is pretending to be his assistant wearing a bad brown wig. So, and he and Wilson Fisk and Emma are all aligned for various reasons in taking down the current state in Orcus. So it's very much like it is an X book right now. So it definitely is fair. So I think that's actually not one of the books, if you're interested in this, that you can skip. But I will say,
it's a bit Armor Wars too, in that Orcus is exploiting his Sentinel technology, and
he's trying to figure out how to take it down. And I will say that I remember the big gimmick of Tony and Emma getting married, and I don't know if we talked about this because I don't think I was reading this, but it's all a Fugazi.
Yeah.
I assumed just they had been starting to date, like in the comics. I was like, okay, whatever, they're dating. But no, it's because she's his assistant. Fai Long walks in on them, and in the midst of them having this talk, and to not arouse suspicion, Tony just goes with it and acts like he's on his knee to propose to her, and then they actually have to end up going through the whole thing because Fai Long's suspicious, so they actually do get married. But it's all for convenience to trap Fai Long and try and get information out of him. Like I said, I think these books vary in degree of quality. But I think that the core books, Red and Immortal, are still awesome, just as they were before all this. And generally speaking, like, I am a huge fan of the idea of having Kitty Pryde not only return to being a ninja, but killing everything in her wake. Like, that is unexpected, and I'm here for it.
It's crazy.
It's crazy, and it's not just her. There's another one of the books that's got Psylocke and who's the other person? The other person escapes me right now, but they're going around killing everybody too. So they're like, fuck it, we're just going to take. And I was like, I'm here for this. I'm here for the X Killing Squad. Like, that's cool. So Kitty's like, I mean, she's like literally killing everybody, like in creative ways. It's like she's just traveling the world Ronin style, killing as many of these Orcus people as she can find. And I just can't. I love it. I love that.
Well, it is in continuity. Yeah. Because Kitty Pryde and Wolverine, I mean, that miniseries, she learned a lot of valuable skills in that.
Well, she actually in the first in the first issue of the X-Men, where she takes on the new moniker, she talks all about Ogun and how he taught her all these skills.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's great. It's great stuff. So I'm back. I think I'm back.
Well, it does my heart good to hear this.
Yes,
it really does. You haven't mentioned Wolverine and or X-Force with the current developments with the Beast storyline, and I don't know if you didn't read them. Maybe you didn't.
Yeah, well, I haven't, no, because X-Force 43, which is one of the first issues of the Fall of X, has nothing to do with all that, and then X-Force 44 I haven't been read. It's next. It's 2 books from it's okay. 2 more books to go, so I haven't read any of it.
I'm a little on the fence with the way I think they're trying to solve it. So yes, I won't say anything. I would like you to discover it fresh, but it's a time-worn trope that I don't know if it's working yet or not.
Yeah, and then listen, got to throw a little shade. The Iceman book is awful. It's just terrible. And the Jean Grey miniseries is not off to a good start. Not that I expected it to. And I didn't care for Dark X-Men at all. So the minis are losing me. I'd already said on the show that I thought the first issue of Alpha Flight was rough. So yeah, I don't think the minis are doing it for me. But the core books, yeah, they're still solid. I'm letting my haterade melt.
Nice. New leaf, indeed.
Yep.
There you go.
Well, old leaf, right?
Younger leaf, yeah.
Me liking X books is like that's not new leaf. That's like returning to the old leaf. It's like relapsing.
do more or less.
Come back around.
Yeah. More often than not, but sometimes we don't come back around.
True.
Yeah. And that's just a product of age and experience. Like, once you've seen all the stories played out, they start to cycle and appear again. And then it's just like, why bother? Let the younger kids enjoy them.
That's it exactly.
Yeah.
Just because, it's silly in hindsight that, you have people who react so strongly. So a bunch of people come together and they form heat, and instead of just moving on with their lives, they have to get so upset, even though this could bring a whole bunch of new people into bringing them towards the Green Lantern, even though the guy that everybody's mad about is no longer the main character in the book. It's like, just, bro, you had your time, man. Like, you've had decades of a story with this character. Like, it's okay for someone else to come. Why? Like, gatekeeping, I despise it anyway. But it's like, wouldn't you want more people in the club instead of like fewer people? So it boggles the mind, and obviously now that these are all things you learn over time, with age, with experience, and everything like that. You're a teenager or something, and you don't want to hear it, but it's true. This too shall pass. You just got it. And it's just entertainment. It's not even. It is. There are so many things that you can devote all that energy to. It's just let people have their stories, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There's a thin line between love and possession.
Yeah.
It's hard, right? Because I love Commandy. I would feel some kind of way if a new Commandy series came out and they just got it totally wrong. I wouldn't be vocal about it. I just wouldn't buy it or read it.
Well, that
there are
was
many
reaction to Howard.
Right, but there are many people that do take it upon themselves to be vocal about it, and you have to understand it's not yours. You still have yours. It existed in the past. You enjoyed it. You love it, and that's great. This new thing is not the same thing. So just move on, brothers and sisters. It's okay. Let the youngins have their books.
Let the good times roll,
Yeah.
Yes, because the new people who are coming in and enjoying the books, they may end up creating stories that you'll either enjoy or that the next generation. It's like I just don't. Why are you trying to just stop this from growing?
Right. It's kind of like when Byrne took over Superman. There wasn't an internet, but I'll tell you, there was a lot of guys at the local shop. This is not Superman. What is this? Well, because number one, it's not boring. And it's for a new generation of readers, and then now we became that generation of readers, and now Byrne Superman is the old Superman. So
that's right.
It happens. It happens. I have something.
I know you do.
I have a diamond in the rough, my friends. Buried treasure.
Oh boy!
I pulled this out of a dollar box, and it's the first part of my Keith Giffen-O-Rama, the second of which will be my In Your Travels. But I pulled the Supreme Annual, number one, from May 1995. And get this, when you hear the list of creators on this, you're going to be like, oh my God, it's a Legion reunion. Plot and pencils by Keith Giffen. Script by Tom and Mary Bierbaum. Inks by Charlie Adlard.
Wow.
It's a young Charlie Adlard. So
sure.
Keith indicated things that he want embellished. Loosely in some spots, and Charlie went in and did the best he could, but it's a young Charlie Adler. So you could tell where Keith wasn't very specific with the pencils, because Charlie had to, delineate something, so he relied on his skill, and at the time he wasn't the Charlie Adler that we know. So I'm not saying it looks bad, but there are sections where you could tell that Keith pulled back a little bit and let Charlie just take over. It's still very good looking. Color art by Ron Reif and Donald Skinner. Letters, David, by the great John Workman.
Damn Skippy.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So this story takes place after World War II and before Supreme returned to Earth in the 1990s. You know the story of Supreme, right? after World War II, he's like, fuck it, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
He goes like Superman, goes planet hopping, and then eventually comes back to Earth. So this Supreme is tooling around in space, and he's in the Osiris-Ro system. And he comes upon this planet, and it's being ripped apart by this massive mining ship in orbit. It's just tearing the planet to shreds. So he's familiar with this planet. And he descends to the surface, he's looking around, and he's assessing the damage. And he finds the place populated by sentient crystal life forms. And they're pleading with him to help them. They're like, please, help. He doesn't believe that the primitive life is worth saving. But in typical Supreme fashion, he recalls a line of scripture that convinces him otherwise. Inasmuch as ye have done it to the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it to me. See, Supreme justifies a lot of his actions, good and bad, by scripture. He's devout. He's a believer. He's a fanatical Christian. And he frequently spouts scripture. He uses his religious ideology as a means to erase any wrongdoing he may do. Because Supreme is very heavy-handed, right? To make matters even worse, Supreme has a God complex. So he sees an affront to God and as affront to himself, right? So he obliterates this mining machine. Just goes in and tears it all up. But his actions are recorded. And they're transmitted back to the complex's owner, a noble named Chi, who has experienced a recent string of losses and setbacks. Like, nothing's going right for this guy. He's bleeding money. He's pissed. So he contracts the services of an uber-powered hitman, a man named Vergessen. And this guy can don a seemingly endless variety of massively powerful guises. Just like changing clothes. Like he'll assume, let's just say he'll shift into like a Daxamite, where he can conquer basically anything. And then he can segue into another, like a creature. Like he can shapeshift, but he also gains the powers of whatever he shifts into, right? Vergessen hates Supreme. Why? Why does Vergessen hate Supreme? He gets the contract and he's like, you know what? I'm going to do this for free. And Chi's like, what? He's like, no, this is on the house because I hate this motherfucker. We have history. Vergessen is a Nazi. Yep. Supreme killed him, or he thought he killed him, at the end of World War II. But for whatever undisclosed reason, Supreme's point-blank optic blast failed to kill him. So for the remainder of the issue, we don't only have a war of the Übermensch, we have a war of ideologies. You have Supreme fighting for what he believes to be God's will, and Vergessen for the Nazi ideals of genetic purity and superiority. Like, both characters are very similar in that they're both fanatics. They both end hundreds of innocent lives in this issue just in pursuit of their goals, right? It's amazing. It's a really tight, done-in-one story with a lot of meat on the bone. Like, you get these two characters, stupidly powerful characters, who believe in something. They relinquish their actions to these ideals. And they're both basically the same character. I mean, one of them is a Nazi, but he has things for which he fights, and Supreme is a devout Christian. And I mean, they're both addled, right? They're not right in the head, either one of them. But it's a very scathing commentary on the dangers of unbridled fanaticism, with a very, very cool and clever plot twist at the end. Vergessen keeps shifting, right? Because Supreme gets the beat on him, and they're beating the crap out of each other, and Vergessen takes a form, and Supreme finds a way around it. He keeps shifting power sets, and at one point he assumes this character that can read minds, right? And he reads Supreme's mind, and he says, I'm going to transform into the one thing Supreme believes can kill him. And so he transforms, and it's Vergessen's undoing because Supreme doesn't believe anything can kill him. So Vergessen actually transforms into nothing and kills himself. It's cool. It's a really cool ending. And it was $1. It is. It was $1, a freaking $1. And you get Keith Giffen art, Charlie Adlard, but there's a backup story in this. A World War II backup story featuring Supreme and the Allies. And the Allies in this case are Glory, Die Hard, and Super Patriot before he got all fucked up. The story's written by Len Wein. And Keith Giffen in the same Image issue. What the hell's happening? Pencils by Shannon Denton, inks by Norm Rapmond, and color by Ron Reif. And it's a very simple story. This Allies ask Supreme to help them clean out a Nazi-infested area of France, and Supreme goes totally off the rails. He takes 2 giant bombs off a Nazi plane and bombs the place, killing all the Germans and all the innocent French people as well. And that's the end of the story. And he's like, I've done God's will. Okay, buddy. So, Supreme Annual #1. I freaking had a great time with this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice little jump in the way back.
And get this. Now talk about gobsmacked. I actually own a page of original art from this issue.
That is nuts.
That's why I bought it. I was like, oh shit, I have a page from this. I don't even have the issue. I'm going to buy it and read it and love it. And I have a page. Yeah.
It's so weird that you have these random pieces of art.
There's one part in the main story where Vergessen takes the form of those crystals that were pleading for Supreme to help them, but a genetically evolved version of the crystals. And he's like, oh, since all the crystals are dead, would you kill an endangered species? He's like such a prick. And the answer is yes, but it wasn't Supreme's doing that eliminated this guy. It was his own undoing, which I think is very poetic. Yeah, it's a great issue. Love
nice.
it. Yeah,
look at you.
I love the
high over here.
I love the Wayback Machine.
You do. You really do.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. How could you go wrong for $1?
Especially Keith Giffen.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's
hard to go wrong.
And such an unlikely pairing with Adlard on the finishes.
It's strange. There are certain flourishes of Adlar's ink work where it looks like Walking Dead in space. Like you'll see Vergessen's face, and it's like, wait a minute, that's not entirely Giffen. That looks like something out of Walking Dead. So you could tell he was getting there. He wasn't capital C, capital A. He was just plain old Charlie Adlard then.
Yeah,
learning the ropes, but it's still very accomplished.
Right.
Well, speaking of analogs, since the limited series finished, I went and reread the first couple of issues and then just sat down and consumed the remaining issues of Superman Lost. This is absolutely not what I expected. I reading the first issue and then, which was exciting, and then the second issue that's where the story really kind of takes off. But after that, like anything that I thought, like I really thought when the project was announced and just reading the first issue, that basically these 10 issues or after the first issue, the rest of the story was basically Superman trying to get back home to Earth. And if you think that that's what it was going to be, we're all mistaken. These 10 issues, written by Christopher Priest, the art team on the majority of the issue of the series, and drew full issues for most of it but then based on how the story, the events were broken down, Carlo Pagulian and Jason Paz may not have they're in every issue. They just didn't draw every issue towards the end of the series. You have some pages by Lee Weeks, Will Conrad, and if Will Conrad is probably the weakest of the artists involved, his pages still look really good. Everything is complimentary, even the weak stuff, which is way different than Carlo's work, but still fits with the story Priest is telling. Dan Jurgens and Brett Breeding, Vince.
Ooh.
Jose Luis, and inks by Joe Prado, Julio Ferreira, and Jonas Trinidad. Jeremy Cox is your colorist for pretty much the entire series except for the Lee Weeks parts, and that's by Elizabeth Breitweiser. It's crazy, and I'm because it's Priest and because he likes to play with time and with flashbacks that may not necessarily appear as flashbacks. You really kind of have to follow along. He's sometimes, we know Christopher Priest can be clever. Sometimes he can be a little bit too clever, but this worked within the confines of these 10 issues. It's a time travel story. It's a space story. Adam Strange appears, and he even kind of lets the reader know that space travel is time travel, so nothing's really all that linear, and Superman may think he's just going to be right back, but actually maybe not. When after the first issue, where there's a global threatening crisis, the Justice League act on it. Superman's really the only one who can kind of save the day. Gets wrapped up in Wonder Woman's golden lasso, and he basically that's going to be the tether to keep him, so they can bring him back as he gets too far away. But if he doesn't remove himself from the lasso, it's going to be catastrophic. So he has to kind of just let himself go, and he just figures, fuck it, I'll make it home. But it really doesn't go as planned, and he gets picked up by a group of aliens called the Contractatio. I love it when Priest comes up with species, but they're kind of crude in their language, but they're able to decipher what Superman is saying, and they think they're dropping him back off on Earth. What actually they're not. It's a planet that does look an awful lot like Earth, but the atmosphere isn't really breathable. There's a class system in place where you have the people who are still living on the outside of the planet, that are living on the surface. It's a democracy. They choose to live like this. This is where they want to stay. Whereas the progressive people, the technologically advanced portion of the population are underground, and there's somebody who there's this great wall, almost looks like the wall from Game of Thrones, and Superman makes his way over this wall, and there's like these vast, it's just nothing but green, and it looks like farmland, and it's lush, and it's filled with life, and this person appears out of this elevator that comes up out of the ground, and he calls himself Victor, and Cal says, well, that's a common name on my plane. He's like, no, that's not my name. That's basically what I am. That's his title. He's the Victor. And he basically says, we don't want you here, so we're going to give you everything you need to get home. We'll give you a suit that can survive, help you survive in space. They give him an oxygen tank. They give him this little computer device he calls the Marquis, and that's kind of that's going to help him get home, even though nobody on this planet or the little computer knows where Earth is. They're just going to kind of wing it, and Superman's going to go and on his way. But he finds these space dolphins that Lobo has told him about in the past, and he figures, okay, great, I figure this will get me home. Like, I'll just, like Lobo's talked about him, at least maybe they'll get me in the vicinity, something will look familiar to me, and I'll be somewhere maybe within my solar system, and who knows. But something comes up where he kind of gets sidetracked. There's a bit of a detour, loses his supplies, and figures, fuck it, I got to go back to where I came from, which is Arcasian is where is basically the planet, is what we've deemed, is what we've named it. So he goes back, and he's there for years, and he's kind of and in this on the other side of the wall where it's full of life, he basically kind of set up his own little home. Basically, kind of just looks like his home in Smallville, where the Kents live, and he's kind of just set up shop there, and there's a young man whose name is Jemmy, but he pronounces it like Jimmy, and he becomes friendly with Clark. He kind of stays on the farm with Clark, and Clark's just like, this is. I'll get myself home. I'll find a way home. But for now, like, I'll do what I can to help the people here. You have the people on the outside, and maybe we can have everybody maybe come to an agreement. And but nothing really changes in all the time that Clark is here. And then all of a sudden, a Green Lantern appears. Not a Green Lantern we've ever seen before. Her name basically translates to Hope, and attractive alien, and she's been lost. She ended up with the ring because the previous ring wielder perished and didn't tell her anything before he died, and I guess the ring isn't too forthcoming with information. But it's also an older generation of. It's not a ring of the current era, which we find out as the story progresses, because it's still it doesn't have the it's got the impurity, so it's not impervious to yellow, so it's that will play a part. But she's happy that she is with people who are kind and considerate, and seem to be satisfied with what they have. But Jemmy finds out while Clark is out that he's figured out a way for Clark to get home, and Hope ain't having it, and in a fit of rage kills Jemmy, and she never confesses, and basically she's like, he left. He went back to his people when Clark returns, and Clark never really kind of buys it, but he's like, okay, I guess so. And while we're seeing Clark on this planet, the story is also with Clark back home, because he does eventually make his way home, but because he's been gone for so long, he's having serious trouble adapting or readapting or trying to just acclimate himself back to being on Earth, the woman he loves, land of the living, and it's not. There's a lot going on, and while this is happening, Lois is almost at wit's end, not knowing what to do to help her husband, to save her husband. Lex Luthor gets involved, and Lex actually, it appears as though Lex gives Lois cancer. And he figures this is a way he can manipulate the situation where either Lois will have to tell her husband that she's sick. If she does, and he asks how it happened or why, and it gets back that Lex was involved. Well, that send Superman over the deep end. So Lex is trying to do his thing, and these are basically the pages that Jurgens and Breeding are working on, and it's extremely it goes to a dark place because we also see Superman as well. We see Clark as not as Clark, but basically it's Superman dressed casually with a ball cap pulled down over his face. He is in a doctor's office. The doctor he's seeing isn't really a psychiatrist or psychologist, but Supergirl Kara sees this person on a consistent basis. She had canceled her appointment that day, and when Michael Schwartz, the doctor, when he goes into the room, he sees this man standing in his office, saying that he has an appointment, so this guy's got to leave. And Clark is basically like, I know you don't have an appointment. I know the person canceled it. My cousin is the one who normally sees you. I have to talk to somebody because right now Clark is seriously feeling like he has to kill Lex. Lex put my wife in danger. I have to make this right, or I have to at least make him pay. And so Superman's talking through some shit. And it's so, this works because it's not a straightforward story. It couldn't be told in a linear fashion. There's the way it all concludes, the way it all comes together, and just how it wraps up. I had to reread the last issue more than once just because I wanted to make sure that this made sense scientifically, but just that it followed the threads from the beginning, and it pretty much does. It's a beautiful looking series. The Bogolian pages are stunning. He draws a fantastic Wonder Woman. He draws a great Superman. I think Caleb said that this Justice League story was a better Justice League story than when Priest actually had a run on Justice League a few years ago, and I'm pretty much going to agree with him. I was completely blown away with it because, like I said, after the first couple of issues, I figured, okay, I know where this is going. But just when you sit down and you read it from start to finish, it's a hell of a ride. It is just, I mean, how it plays out is just it absolutely makes sense. I could see some maybe thinking it's a bit of a cop out, but it really kind of only has to be resolved this way. There's no, you couldn't, the way the story was playing out, if the Superman that was, if that Clark that was on Arcasian and was in space and was there for years while Lois and the rest of the Justice League are on Earth and in the when Adam Strange shows up and then you talk about the Zeta Beam, and it's just, it absolutely, Priest knew what he was doing. He knows the science of the DC universe to a degree, and he absolutely played it up for all it's worth. It was these 10 issues are, they're strong. I'm not going to say that it's one of my 5 best Superman stories, but it is a really, really good Superman tale, and it's just it hits all the notes. Even though it appears that Superman may slip or can act a little bit more human or react the way a human would to certain situations, it fits, and it absolutely all makes sense. I definitely recommend it. I hope we get a hardcover of this, because I will definitely have it on the shelf. It's a the covers have all been amazing too. At least the standard covers that I've seen. But no, it was absolutely, it was stellar. I really, really enjoyed it. It's one of the best Superman stories I've read, and I've read a few, but this is really, really good. And it's really not a story that, probably, I'm not gonna say it's a timeless tale or this could fit in any era. It's really a it fits. It works the way it's presented. How it all plays out. I'm really glad Priest got to tell this story, and the addition of the extra artist didn't bog it down at all. Didn't detract. Didn't make you think like this just doesn't work, or felt like a completely different story after it looked a certain way for so many issues. It's a good time. I definitely think if you can get it, you can get your hands on it in any form, whether it's the 10 issues, whether it's a collection when it comes out. If you're a Superman fan, and I do think if it will, this isn't Superman for all seasons. This isn't the first Man of Steel stories by Byrne. This is kind of for Superman fans. I wouldn't necessarily give this to somebody who's just, who may have seen the Man of Steel and is like, oh, I want to read a Superman story. Well, this is this is maybe an intermediate Superman fan story. After you've read the character for a few years, then maybe get around to this. But I wouldn't give this to somebody who's just dipping their toe. But it's a really, really strong Superman story.
For the college students out there, he's saying it's like Superman 201 instead of Superman 101.
There you go.
That's right.
There you have it. All right, everybody. Hey, thank you for being here with us one more time. Remember, you buy graphic novels, you buy OGNs and omnibus editions and trade paperbacks and manga, and you don't want to pay a lot, go to cheapgraphicnovels.com, because they have everything you want at the price you want to pay. Order something. Receive the confirmation email. Reply to the confirmation email saying 11 o'clock comics sent me, and Max will give you free shipping on your next order. It's like Christmas every time.
He's a mensch.
He is. And remember, please check out our Patreon page, newly retooled Patreon. We have 2 tiers. You can tip us. That's cool. Thank you very much. Or you can, for $5 a month, you can get a bonus episode that nobody else hears. For $10 a month, you get the bonus episode and access to the Slack, 24/7 images, audios, downloads of classic fanzines, pages, camaraderie. Where else are you going to get that? It's a wonderful community. Yes, friendship. It's a wonderful community. So go to patreon.com/11 o'clock comics and check it out. We would love to have you in the family. In your travels, keep searching them cheapy bins. Because my friend David gave me 3 issues of a nice little mini-series that I loved so much. And this is the second part of the Giffen-O-Rama, because it was written and drawn by Keith Giffen. The dialogue was by Alan Grant. Now, you put Giffen and Alan Grant together, and what do you get? You get Lobo, but this is not Lobo. Color art by Clydeen Nee. It is images of Shadowhawk, number 1 to 3. It's a 3-issue miniseries where Shadowhawk, the backbreaker, goes up against Gideon Trencher. Yes, it's Trencher versus Shadowhawk. What? There's a mob boss, Carmine the Blowhole Oliver, who's going to turn state's evidence. A lot of people don't want him to do that, including Shadowhawk. Shadowhawk was originally the dude that broke this guy's back, landing him in the hospital. But Shadowhawk thinks, my boss turned state's evidence. He's going to take a lot of scum off the streets. Maybe I should protect this guy. Well, Trencher wants to reclaim or repossess this mob boss soul. That's what Trencher does. He repossesses souls. So it's the war of Shadowhawk against Trencher, and it's not in the classic Marvel format where the two anti-heroes meet, beat the shit out of each other, and decide to team up. No, these two characters go at it for all 3 issues. And it's done in Giffen's Ligne Claire, that clear line style that he employed on the original Trencher miniseries, that chaotic linear style where it's all over the place, very little blacks. Oh, this thing is gorgeous. It's beautiful, and it's all carnage. Shadowhawk breaks Trencher's back at one point, and Trencher's pretty much unkillable. He can regenerate and such, and he breaks his back, and Trencher just like kind of gets up, and Shadowhawk's like, what the hell? So if you're in the dollar bins, check it out, find it, buy it. It's worth every penny of whatever you're going to pay for it. Images of Shadowhawk. It's great. It's so stupid. Phoebe keeps telling Trencher that, maybe you've been, somebody cast a bad luck spell on you because everything happens to you. And he's like, no, who Phoebe is, right? The voice in Trencher's head that tells him, where to be and what to do and all that stuff, which may be an implant or maybe Trencher's just fucking crazy. Like, who knows? But it's so much fun. Yeah. So thank you, David.
I was giddy when I saw it. When I found that at the Rift in the back issue bins, I was like, "Yeah, this is coming home." And then once I knew that you didn't have them, then I knew where they were going.
Yeah, who doesn't love Shadowhawk?
Seriously,
no friend of mine.
Yeah, he travels. The second arc has begun with the 6th issue of World Tree, and the story starts with a flashback to 1999, where we see the characters that we were introduced to, older versions in the first arc. We see them from about 25 years or so ago. And then the story that kicks off the few pages that kick off this issue, we then jump ahead to 2024, where some of those same characters that were in that kind of that intro, that prologue, are sitting around a table having a conversation about the fate of the world. And there's quite a bit of talking in this issue, more than the previous issues. We were introduced to another character who I kind of want to be a fan of, so we'll see if he's on the up and up, if his introduction to our agent is on the level. But yeah, it's there's things are still going a little crazy in this world, and I'm glad that it's still, we're getting more of it, and I cannot wait to see how it continues and how the progression goes and where we end up. It's still written by James Tynion IV and art by Fernando Blanco with colors by Jordi Belair.
I read it as well. I think the thing, now that we're 6 issues into this book, though, I think for it to be what I'm going to want it to have been, it needs to start amping up the atrocities, because
for sure,
we got a lot of talk of how, if this thing gets out, the world's going to end, but we haven't seen much of it, and I keep comparing it now to Crossed, which just was absolutely unapologetically over the top, and I realize this book isn't probably going to go there, but if you're telling me that this thing is the thing that's going to put our world into this, homicidal, dystopian, nightmarish reality, I need to, they started off strong with the first issue with when the kid's off and all those people, and you're like, oh shit, but we haven't gotten much since then. There's been some death, but there hasn't been anything that I would consider the scale with which they're obviously mobilizing all of these resources to stop. So Tynan's a great writer, so I'm assuming it's a slow build, and I'm fine with that. Like, as long as we get there, I'm fine with it. But I think 6 issues now. I'd like to start feeling like by the end of this second arc, we're getting there.
I don't disagree. I'd like to think we are going to get there, because we are getting introduced. I'm hoping this new arc isn't like a redo of the first arc, just in different clothing with other characters. I mean, we're being introduced to new characters that are still within this family, but we can maybe speed things up a bit, and maybe we had to get through sitting around a table and having discussions to get to where you and I, Jason, wanted to be. But it's still for me. It's an enjoyable read. It still looks good. But yeah, I
for sure.
I do want to. I don't tell me where we're going. Definitely show me. But I'm okay, like you, with the slow build. But yeah, I would like to get. I would like to see where it's all leading to.
Nice. I have a weird Into Travels. Like, I wasn't planning on reading this. Like, I didn't even know it existed, honestly. And then I was looking at the stuff that came out, and I just happened to catch the creative team on it. And then I'm like, wait a minute, what? I'm like, okay. I'm like, now you have my attention. And what I'm talking about is, Marvel puts out a ton of Star Wars comics, and none of us read them with any regularity. So if you're listening to the show, you don't hear us talk about it because we don't read them. But I've heard from people that do that, like, a lot of them are very good. So I'm not like I'm not reading them because I think they're bad. It's not like a bad license. Like, I just don't have the time to squeeze it in. It seems like I don't make priority. But that said, Star Wars Thrawn Alliances just came out, #1. And what piqued my interest is that Timothy Zahn is on the cover as a writer. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wait, what? So, yeah, now, again, maybe this is all well known, but maybe because I don't pay attention to the Star Wars comics, I didn't see this. I don't even remember the solicit being made a big deal about it. But this is a series where Timothy Zahn and Jody Hauser are the writers, with Pat Olive and Andrea DeVito as the artists, and Rochelle Rosenberg on colors. And yeah, and it's set in the like the late prequels era, where the Emperor and Darth are still doing their thing, and Anakin's a grown ass Jedi, hasn't turned to the dark. So it's like there's like some flashbacks. Like it's that era, covers that era between like the transition from Anakin becoming like young adult Jedi Anakin to obviously Darth Vader. Spoilers. But nah, dude, it was real good, man. The art looked good. Olaf looked tight and right. Like, I don't know how old he is now, but he looked good. It's like, for me, licensed comics, they have to. My ideal licensed comic work is when the characters are drawn close enough to the actors that you feel like it's the characters but not quite enough where you feel like it was rendered from like photograph, right? And I think that both artists DeVito and Olaf do a great job at that. And Thrawn is a fantastic character, and for those that don't know, the young bucks out there listening, Timothy Zahn is really the creator and father of Thrawn, among many other awesome characters in his novels. And so, needless to say, I mean, the voice here, all the voices are spot on. I mean, Zahn's written more pages of Star Wars than probably any person alive. So yeah, it was real fun, man. And I don't think it's going to get me to just start reading a bunch of Star Wars comics all of a sudden. But I'm here for this little side pocket, at least until Zahn is uninvolved. I assume this is a miniseries. I know so little about it. I don't even know like if it's a miniseries or what have you, but I'm assuming it is, right? Because Timothy Zahn being in it. But yeah, pretty neat, little fun surprise that I just wasn't even expecting.
I curate the Star Wars stuff. If I open the cover and the art doesn't thrill me, I won't read it. But I didn't know Olaf was on this. This is one I hadn't seen, so I'll look at it. Like the last Star Wars I read was the Vader Black, White, and Red, which was amazing. because of Daniel Warren Johnson and others. But I thought that was a really tight, well-presented, visually arresting series. But I can't say that about all Marvel Star Wars stuff.
Sure.
Like there's a lot of them look like tryout books to me.
Yep.
Yeah. And since I'm all pro Marvel this episode, I'm not going to retort with what I wanted to retort, which is that a lot of Marvel, it's not limited to the Star Wars books, but
right. But you don't have to tarnish it. Let's just keep it in mind.
Yeah, no, it's all about love. It's all about love. I'm back in love with the House of Ideas. Let's go.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here with us one more time. We hope you come back next time in less than a week. Remember, you're getting this twice a week. So we'll be back in your ear holes toot sweet.
Not only that, they're getting 2 episodes next week because we have our book of the month.
No, they're not. They're not getting.
The patrons.
Yes, there you go. The patrons.
The first patron bonus episode will be
right. We are recording 2 episodes for next week, but yes, the patrons are getting that book of the month episode.
See, that's crazy. Patrons get 3 episodes in a week. I think that's too much of a good thing, but whatever. You be the judge of that. So go to your local comic shop, buy some stuff, talk about them online, maybe our Facebook page or, on the socials. Or better yet, join the Slack and talk about it there with a bunch of like-minded people that just go crazy, ape shit for this stuff. Say goodnight. I can't even whistle. David.
Good night.
Boop, screw it up. Scatman Crothers, screw it up, David, screw it up.
David.
And, we're out of here. Tell them you love them so much.
Man, I love y'all mad much.
Madly.
Unyieldingly.
That's it for that one.